Is someone going to talk?
No, we're not talking this episode.
We'll
This
just
is a silent episode.
This is Finding Neutral.
This is the ASMR episode.
Episode 74.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Travis.
I'm Nick.
On the docket for today, come across this news article. This is from Common Tread, and they're reporting on, and this isn't a comment on their reporting. Their reporting's fine. This is a comment just on what they're reporting on. The 2026 Ducati Panigale V4 Lamborghini, the $100,000 superbike. So I bring this article up because I wanted to hear your guys' opinion on this. And this is just a quick off-the-cuff opinion. What do you guys think of Ducati charging $100,000 for a V4 Panigale?
Question one. What V4 is it? There's about 7 different versions now.
It just says V4 Lamborghini.
So is it like a V4R, a V4S, a V4?
As far as I can tell, just by looking at it and not reading the article because I'm lazy, is it looks like a V4S.
Because I feel like a V4R is like a $50,000 bike.
Yeah, they're in the 40s, and
But the S is only like 30 something, so that's basically triple the price.
Yep.
And it's green.
Yeah, it's got some paint job, and I'm sure it's got some Farkles on it. It looks like it's got an Akrapovic exhaust.
I think they all do, don't they?
No, the base model has whatever Ducati puts on it. The S, I think, also has whatever Ducati puts on it. Hell, I think the R does too. I don't.
Well, we just saw it today. They both had the same.
Yeah, they had like
exhaust.
the little box where you can't even really see the exhaust.
Yeah, I think that's just a factory exhaust. I know they got Akrapovic and the Termi pipes in their catalog, but anywho, this thing's supposed to match some special edition Lamborghini's paint job, and they didn't even put special wheels on it. At least on the Lamborghini edition Diavel, they put special wheels on it that match the Lamborghini's wheels.
Are they offering it to the people that buy the Lamborghini first?
I have no idea. I'm not reading that far. Bodywork is carbon fiber. There you go.
Okay.
So $70,000 for some carbon fiber bodywork that you could probably get for about $5,000.
And green.
I'm fine with this, and the reason I'm fine with this is because only people that buy Lamborghinis are going to buy that bike, and absolutely zero of them are actually going to ride it.
I was going to
So I
say,
don't
how many
care.
of these do you
You'll
think
never
are
see it.
actually going to get ridden?
You'll never see that bike.
I can tell you they're going to make 630 of them.
So like maybe 3 of them will get ridden.
There'll be some guy that Ducati probably pays to take it on a track, and he'll probably wad one up just so they can say that one was wadded up, and that's it.
And the rest of them will sit in somebody's tech office for the IT director.
So apparently there's 2 versions of this bike. Panigale V4 Lamborghini at a just bargain of a deal, $78,400 USD.
Mm-hmm.
I can convert that into Canadian if you need.
Please.
And it's $88,800 in Canadian.
Thank you.
And then there's a Panigale V4 Lamborghini Special Clienti, whatever that is.
Clitoris.
That one's the $100,000, but it's specifically a $100,400.
$100,004.
No, $100,400.
Okay.
And
I'm glad they put the 400 on there. That was really going to make
What's
or break them.
the destination charge on this?
so it's worth noting that the Panigale V4S, the bike this is based on, is $33,895.
So are both of them based on the V4S? Is that what it's saying?
Yes.
Then what's the difference?
So this gentleman who wrote this Revzilla article says, do the V4 Lamborghini styling updates, its performance upgrades, and factory Farkles justify the price hike? He wrote hell no, and then he has a line through it, like he scratched it out, and then he said probably not. But Lamborghini's been doing this, and this has been part of their success. They've been offering limited edition runs of bikes that have been celebrating different things like MotoGP victories and stuff. And to be honest, like if you think about it, if you're a multi-gazillionaire and you have a huge car collection and whatnot, a $100,000 bike is much less expensive than like your $3 million Bugatti and stuff. So
Yep.
100,000 is nothing to those guys.
As I say, it just doesn't matter.
It just doesn't matter.
The people that's going to appeal to, that's cheap.
Yep.
They have watches that cost that.
Yep.
Well, you also have to think that the person, like a Lamborghini, performance car, how many of those actually see the performance outside of a straight line?
Very, very few.
None. So
Here
it's the
in this
same with the
country-
bike.
Here in this country, very, very few. I would argue overseas in Europe.
More
see
so, but
a little
still,
bit
like,
more
if
of
we're
the
talking
proper action.
Percentage of owners that actually
still very low.
You're talking in the single percent.
Yeah.
It's very few.
I mean, that bike, maybe if someone actually decides to ride it, it'll go to like a Cars and Coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
I doubt any of those bikes will ever see more than 5,000 miles.
Yes, because people will think, I can't put the miles on it because it won't be worth money.
Well, it'll devalue it. That's the only value that thing has is as a collector's piece, and they want low miles on something like that when they're buying it. So
next up in the discussion here.
So did we decide, is it worth it or is it not?
Oh, it's absolutely not worth it. It doesn't ride any different than the regular one, and all you're getting is a fancy paint job.
So therefore,
No thanks.
stamp of disapproval.
Yep, not for me.
But if someone gave it to me for free, I would desecrate it. Absolutely. Let's wrap it.
Let's paint it. Let's rattle can it.
plastic dip.
To our one viewer, if you're watching this, buy it, send it to us, and we'll paint it.
What's Brandon? I don't know that he can afford one of those.
Where's Brandon?
Brandon's made of money. What are you talking about? Next up is we're going to discuss some of these
We saw one of those
rat
earlier
bikes.
today.
Was that
I think.
the Ducati thing?
I don't know. It looked red.
So I
Yeah.
found this bike while cruising through the old Craigslist, and this is a 2004 Ducati Multistrada. I believe this one was a DS 1000, if I remember right. Bike currently has 6,200 miles on it, and he claims that overall it's in great condition and is a head turner. So actually, this might be the one you guys saw today.
How many heads have been turned on it?
Many,
Well, it has two, so have they both been worked on, I guess?
possibly. I'm skimming through here to
Is
see
this
if there's
local
anything.
to us?
So we got yes, it is. The bike has a carbon fiber belly pan, a exhaust heat shield, some sort of clutch cover for the dry clutch, a CNC billet clutch plate, blah blah blah. Anyways,
Don't they all have to have those parts?
the reason that I specifically picked this one out is this one had the OEM taillight switched for an MT07 taillight and integrated turn signals. So I don't know if that's a common mod on these, but what I don't like is whatever the heck this stuff is on the top of the rear fairing. I don't know if they're like lights or what, but behind the back seat, there's just like these things put into the fairing that are clearly not something Ducati would do.
I bet it's the turn signals.
Yeah, it's just awkward. Everything else is like pretty tasteful, although
Go back to the first picture.
the first picture, yeah, just this rear one here. I think it looks lowered. It's hard for me to tell, but the bike looks lowered. Like the rear's squatting down a good bit.
I can't tell from this far away, but are the clip-ons raised quite a bit?
This is a flat bar bike, so
Oh, okay, so it's not the one we saw today.
yeah. This is just an old Multistrada, and they're pretty
What
well
we saw,
known
I
as
don't
being
think was
like
a
one of the
Multistrada.
ugliest bikes ever made. But I kind of like them.
We saw
Well,
Sport Tour.
Yeah, ours was a Sport Tour, whatever.
Ducati
car that
Sport
is.
Turismo.
It's probably oh god, I can't remember that ST4.
I think it was
Yeah.
an ST3.
Or
Is that
yeah.
a thing?
That
Yep.
sounds close.
And
It had some numbers and letters on the side.
It was red.
it
Yeah.
could be like a 750 SS, or it could be an old ST4 or an ST3.
Yep.
Next up is
There was a rat bike up there. Now
Oh yeah,
thinking
there was that
about it-
Hypermotard.
Yeah, exactly.
That thing was beat to shit.
And
This-
it was all black, flat black. Your favorite.
well, those came flat black.
Yeah, it was the flat black, and then it was flatter because there was so
It
much
was
crust
flatter.
It
on
was crusted with flat black.
It wasn't just flat
Yeah.
black; it was flatter.
It was double flat black.
Yeah,
It looked like someone rolled coal all over it.
That thing was hammered.
This is a 1982 Honda Nighthawk 650 Custom.
What does that mean?
Say less, please.
Why do
Oh,
people
oh.
tack the word custom on
This
the
one's on
things?
sale, fellas. It's marked down from 1,500. It's now $1,400. This could be yours.
It comes with $1,400 when you take it off their hands?
No. You have to
So
pay
you're saying
them.
that costs the same as my 2012 People GTI
It has
300?
a gentle 27,000 miles on the bike, and the motor is healthy, according to the owner. It has
motor problems.
It has exposed glass fuses between the handlebars.
Look at that. What are they
They're
for?
quick change when they blow.
He's extremely excited about this completely custom carburetor setup. So I'm pretty certain these bikes came with 4 carburetors from the factory, but now it only has 2 carburetors, and there's 2 manifolds to split one carburetor into 2 intake ports on the
Less
cylinder
carbs,
head.
less problems, right?
Yeah, definitely like
Should've just
syncing
went
4
one.
carburetors that are assembled from a Honda engineer, and then going down to 2 carburetors that's done backyard engineering. It's got to run better. Absolutely.
Why didn't they
Duh.
just put the Holley EFI system on it from a car? Then you just go down to 1. You don't even have
Well,
carburetors.
why even use that? Why don't you use Mega Squirt? Uses like 1980s GM parts, all Delco stuff. So it matched the vintage.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why they called her the Mega Squirt.
So this one has had the rear subframe chopped and shortened. It's kind of half between like a bobber and a cafe bike. It's like, I don't even know what the heck to call this thing. I'm done with it.
The real question is, can it support a barb?
No, it has no back seat.
Nope. No takers.
Denied.
That's $1,400 poorly spent.
Yeah, like I said, you could buy a 2012 People 300 GTI
That's-
for
That's
$1,400.
easily $5,000 from Eagle Finance.
So we got a K6 Gixxer here, fellas.
Which year is that? please?
2006.
Okay.
And this is a Gixxer 1000 from the era. And you're talking like one of the best sport bikes ever made
That's what my buddy Eric has.
until the general public gets a hold of it. And now it's been ruined. So they didn't have a price listed. So I'm assuming they want way more than this thing is worth.
well, it's worth it.
But it's red and black.
It has a sprint filter. That's the first performance mod they talk about is what air filter they have in it.
I've
Important.
never even heard of that.
It has a Brox header,
Hell yeah.
which is all drag racing parts, so you know it's top quality. With slip-on. It doesn't say which slip-on. It just says with slip-on. It's got
eBay.
a PC6. It's got some sort of
Power Commander.
Dynojet Power Commander on there.
Hell
which,
yeah.
Let me tell you how good those run.
Amazing.
I got a fried one at my house.
It's got R1 wheels somehow, some way, and then an evil swing arm 6 to 8, which I'm guessing is 6 to 8 inch.
Ooh, so
swing
this
arm
is a
extension.
stretched Gixxer.
With ceramic wheel bearings, guys. That's the difference maker. To make them so much faster. It's lowered grudge tank.
What does that mean?
I don't know what that means.
Isn't that the stunt tanks? Isn't that what they're called?
I have no idea. I imagine it's to do with roll racing because that's what this bike looks like it's set up for is roll racing.
Well, yeah, we got to make it from shell to shell as fast
And
as
a
possible.
full, true twill carbon front end. I'm assuming that just means the fender he put on
Twill is the pattern.
it. And he claims it's flawless.
Looks flawless.
And it should be making around 170 plus horsepower to the wheel.
To the wheel.
Well, that's what the factory.
But hold on, guys. He's not in a rush to sell. Just taking offers.
That's why there's no price.
Exactly. It looks like he's got a custom headlight here with a block-off plate. Then he has a hole drilled in the block-off plate where he's put in some sort of custom little LED
Can
projector.
we talk about the size of that chicken strip?
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
It's 100% massive for sure.
I don't think that thing has ever been leaned more than the kickstand.
I'm surprised, honestly, that it doesn't have like a 200 size tire on the back.
Well, in
I
roll
would've fully
racing,
expected it to
that
have a
works
giant
against
tire.
you. Although I will say he might be accurate here on the R1 wheel, but I think it's only the front. The rear, it's hard to tell. No, that is a 5-spoke. So yeah, that's probably R1 wheels. He's probably accurate there.
Why though? It's
Ooh,
not
he's
like-
got a More Mafia sticker. That's how you know it's legit.
we got tuned by.
And let's see here. I have no idea what that exhaust is. It kind of looks like it says KD.
The only thing that should be on there is a nice Tochi exhaust. quad pipe.
And then he
touche.
didn't even give us a shot really showing the right side of the bike. So and you kind of got the back right side of the bike. So that's always a bit questionable.
So it's probably been laid down.
Yeah, that's what I always think.
Had to lay her down.
What I want to know
Ooh,
is
it's got a smoked windscreen. That's always really good for racing.
how many hours has that bike spent on the back wheel
On the rev limiter.
and the rev limiter?
Oh, that thing's never been off the rev limiter.
The rev limiter does not exist.
Well, that's probably why he had to put the other pipes on. He probably melted the other ones off.
So our last one here for this segment. This was kind of a shocker to me. It's kind of a weird deal when I found this bike. Very little description, okay? 2012 1199 Ducati Panigale. $8,800. The price is like really attractive. It says fast bike loaded with extras, less than 6,000 miles. This is one of those.
Does it have a title?
This is one of those too good to be true kind of moments.
Does it have a title?
So here's something that I noticed about this one. The color isn't factory. Just right off the rip, that jumped out at
It's
me.
gray.
They did not make a gray Panigale.
Is it stolen?
I would think it was wrecked, and I'm going to say foobar wrecked. It's got these clear clutch covers, man. Like all Instagram is all about these things.
Oh, we
I don't
found
understand.
out
It's a $3,400 option.
you can add a dry clutch.
Yeah, that's the dry clutch. That's different. This is just a clear cover over the wet clutch. So as soon as you start the engine, all you're going to see is just oil going fucking everywhere.
Should we get one of those for my BMW?
Just off? They
Yes.
make them for it. It's,
They make one for mine too. I saw it.
Jesus.
Let's do
They
it.
make them for my Super Duke. It's awful.
Oh, that would be the perfect bike for it.
No, it's so stupid.
I bet they make an orange one and everything.
Oh, they do. And it does have a Termi pipe on, or a Termi slip-on it, which is like $2,500 or something stupid. But the other thing that jumped out about me,
About you?
Yeah, about me.
Yeah, okay.
Jumped out to me. The front tire is a Pirelli Super Corsa.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that plain as day. It only has 6,000 miles on it, and the front tire is about bald.
What's the original tire?
I think it's the original from 2012.
Well, but that rear tire looks very sport touring.
She's only 13 years old on that front tire, so you know that's good.
Here, I can explain to you exactly what happened. The original owner put the nice exhaust on it, probably had, maybe they put tires on, whatever. They cleaned it up, made it nice, it was their first, brand new bike. They had it. They wrecked it at some point between now and when they owned it, and then it was sold, probably at Racer's Edge or something of that nature.
It was insurance auction or Copart or something.
Yep. And so then somebody at some point put the junk tire on the back because that's what they had, that's what they could afford, whatever. They bought it. So it came with all that stuff, and then they changed the color because the plastics probably got blown off of it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure these are
So they
aftermarket
bought
plastics.
whatever color plastics they could find, and then they wrapped it or painted it
So
to make it all match.
this rear tire, here's the kicker on the rear tire. It's a Shinko.
So they did burnouts until the
So-
factory one went out, and then they put the Shinko on.
You got an 1199 Superbike. This was back in its day. This is an S model too. So in 2012, the non-S, the regular base Panigale, was 18,000. The S model was 25,000. So you got a 25
in 2012.
in 2012.
That's big money.
So you got a $25,000 super bike. Today's bike is $33,000 for comparison's sake. So you get this super bike from Ducati. It's premium brand and one of their highest end bikes. And you put the cheapest tire and just buy the rear. You don't even buy a matching set, just the rear.
Where the rear's the only one with the
Burnouts.
cords showing.
Jesus Christ. What's wrong with people?
Burnouts.
All
That's
right.
absolutely 100% what happened. I guarantee it as a salvage title.
All right, we made it, guys. We're through it. Now we're on to the main topic. And on this episode, so I came up with the idea of, in thinking about it, when I talk with customers and everything, I have to kind of gloss over the fact that the Moto Marinis are Chinese built. So instead, when people ask me like, "Oh, I've never heard of the Moto Marinis," because most people haven't, and I don't blame them for that. When I'm explaining what the brand is, I always just say it's an Italian brand, because They're an Italian brand.
Mm-hmm.
All of their engineering is done in Italy. They just have the bikes assembled in China. So, but the thing is if I say China, it like instantly devalues it.
Well, the Himalayan they're gonna buy is made in China.
And that's in India.
Like close enough.
Yeah.
How much are those going to cost in 90 days?
Are you talking about depreciation?
No, the Moto Marini's coming from China.
What do you mean? Oh, tariffs?
Tariff.
We'll see.
145% more?
What I can tell you is the bikes on my showroom floor don't have tariffs.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what-
so my question I was going to ask was, so how long have you guys carried Moto Marini now?
Let's say 6 months.
How many have you sold?
I sold 3.
3.
Yes.
Which ones?
2 Calibros and 1
So
SCR.
the cruiser one?
Yeah. Well, don't forget I'm an Indian shop.
Yeah,
no.
I would totally believe that.
What was the clientele like for these?
The SCR was
Is the SCR the naked?
it's the Scrambler.
Okay.
The one he likes.
Yeah. The SCR, the guy who didn't want the green one, he wanted a black one. So I ordered him in the black
I
one.
like the green one.
Believe it or
I
not,
like the green one.
wait till you see the black one in person.
The Ducati dealer up there had a green Street
yeah.
Fighter, Army Green Street
Oh
Fighter.
yeah, I've seen that one before.
I liked that color.
Anyways, I had to order the SCR for the guy, and he was the first Moto Marini purchase that we've done so far. He was early 40s.
First bike?
He's from out of the country. God, where is he from? Belize?
Oh wow.
He's a black guy, and you never would know he's from out of the country. And I asked him if he spoke any other languages, and he said no. He goes, "Where I'm from, you don't need to. You only speak English." He says his parents speak Spanish, but he only speaks English, and his English is like impeccable. Like you don't have any accent at all.
I'm sure it's better English than ours.
Um,
They probably have real schools over there.
But very, very nice gentleman. He just purchased his first motorcycle as a Kawasaki Eliminator, which is based on that Ninja 500 engine.
Yep, we've talked about that.
It wasn't enough bike for him, so he decided to go with this Moto Marini. He didn't even trade in the Kawasaki. He's keeping it, and he's going to let his girlfriend ride it. But that was the first one, which I actually like that bike. It rides really well. The Calibros, they're cruisers, and don't expect much more than that. The first guy was buying his first bike, and he's like in his 50s, and he's kind of a dork. He's about what I expected. And then the last guy that bought one, he bought the Calibro Bagger, which is the one with the Batwing fairing.
Bagger.
And of course the saddlebags.
Mm-hmm.
He was he's a hard to tell. I can't remember how old he was. He wasn't like super old, but like I think he was in his 50s as well. He just sold a Victory Cross Country, which is a big like Harley sized bagger. And he said he just wants to downsize because he doesn't need that much bike. He says he doesn't do any long distance trips or anything.
So did these people specifically gravitate towards Moto Marini, or did you sell them on the brand?
The first guy, I straight sold him that thing.
Mm-hmm.
He and I talked about different bikes, and after I got a feel of like what kind of bike he's looking for, I introduced him to Moto Marini, and I introduced him to the SCR, and he ended up really liking it. He went and test rode a Trident 660, and he said that he didn't fit on the bike.
It's a small bike.
So he just straight up was like he goes, he liked it and he really wanted to like it, but he just didn't fit and it was uncomfortable.
Yeah, if he's a big guy, he's not going to fit on that bike.
So he ended up going Moto Marini, which fit him well, and he really liked the bike. And it's so going a little deeper into Moto Marini, the engines are the Kawasaki 650, the one that's in like the Ninja 650, the Versus 650, the Vulcan S. I'm sure there's other bikes that it's used in.
But it has the special difference of like the Chinese taking a Japanese thing and making it better.
Correct. So basically, Kawasaki licensed the design to them, so they're not just literally a copy. They're just using Kawasaki's blueprints and building the thing, and even all the parts like the Kawasaki oil filter spins on. So it's a direct copy, And I shouldn't say copy. It's just a reproduction.
Licensed reproduction.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the engine it uses. But what's nice about that is
It's a good engine.
It's a good engine. It's a proven platform. The engine design's been around since like the 80s. So it's dialed. You know exactly what you're getting when you get into that thing. And the bike comes with a 3-year warranty. So you talk about peace of mind. It's like, who cares? They'll take care of it.
Yeah, it's going to be backed up, and it has a real dealer network. So there's really no worry about the typical, like, Chinese scare. Like, you know, like you buy it on Amazon and it shows up, and it's like, well, if something's damaged, good luck getting the replacement part for it. Like,
yeah, there is a dealer
real
network, and the manufacturer, or I should say importer, in the United States is here to back it. They already have one warehouse, I want to say North Carolina, and they're building another warehouse that's going to be closer to my dealership so I can get them quicker. But back to the topic of, does the country of origin matter? And I feel like with Moto Morini, and then I think the biggest culprit out here is CF Moto. I feel like them coming from China is mattering less and less. I feel like the market, like I've believed for a long time that CF Moto is making good products. Like they've been making them for a while, and I think they're getting proven to this point. But I think the market's actually starting to accept them. I don't know what you guys think of them.
Well, yeah. I mean, if we look at the automotive industry, I think it was around 2015, 2016 is when the first Chinese-built cars were sold in the U.S.
Is that the Volvo and the Buick? I think Buicks are Chinese built.
I actually think Volvo was the first, but I think that they kind of slid in before without any press. And the Buick was the first one that was kind of like, oh yeah, like this is made in China.
Yeah, and so her Mustang right over there has a Chinese-built transmission. That's the 6-speed manual transmission in that Mustang. That is that's Chinese built, and that was like a huge deal. And I remember the window sticker like had the build out, and then it specifically like off to the side was like transmission made in China. And I was like, that's kind of weird to point it out like that.
So like when I was shopping for cars at the time, it was like I was looking at Volvo S90, and those came out in 2017. But then in 2018, the product that they sold in the U.S. was Chinese built. So I was like, well, like what one do I want? And really, I don't personally have any concerns with the final manufacture of the vehicle being in China. Just from my background in supplier development, where I would have the concern would be the local sourcing of the componentry in China, because I feel that it would be a lot easier for maybe not necessarily approved materials or approved components that are being acquired locally. So my company that I work for now, we manufacture the same product in Poland as we do in China. There are different suppliers for the same things between the two. Now, do they meet the same standards? Ideally and theoretically on paper, yes. But do you really know? And that's kind of where I struggle with the Chinese-made products. I'm not saying that they're not good, because obviously they've been sold here for almost 10 years now on the automotive side, and I wouldn't say that there's any difference. So I think the longer that we go on this path, the more accepted it will be. I mean, my scooter was made in Taiwan.
And, you know, back in the, coming out of the 50s into the 60s, Japan decided to import motorcycles into the U.S. and cars as well. Back in the 60s, if you drove a Japanese product, whether you're riding it or driving it, it was unacceptable. Like you were shunned from society, and everybody would, and not even just like poking fun like you do with your buddies. Like it was literally like you were a communist and you were a bad person if you drove a Japanese vehicle back then.
Ford still has separated parking lots.
And then
to this day.
But then the 70s came, and with the 70s came some questionable economic policies from the U.S. government, which put us into something called stagflation. There was the fuel crisis and things. The fuel crisis wasn't what directly caused it. It was stagflation that caused everything that went bad. The fuel crisis was just a symptom of it. And during that time, American cars were getting 6 mile to the gallon, 8 mile to the gallon, maybe. And if you had a fuel efficient vehicle, it got 11 mile to the gallon. But before the fuel crisis, gas was a nickel.
Pennies.
It was a nickel a gallon. But then the 70s came, and gas flew from a nickel a gallon to $1 a gallon. And I know $1 a gallon today doesn't sound that bad, but comparatively, if you took our $4 a gallon gas or $3 a gallon gas and turned it to $30 a gallon, it would be a big deal. So everybody traded in their 10 mile to the gallon American cars and got 30 mile to the gallon Japanese cars. And after they drove them for a while and they saw like these little tiny simple cars are stupid reliable, the 80s came along and everybody loved Japanese cars.
Or they got golden showers.
Well,
No,
the
that never
The
happened.
diesel.
The U.S. cars were awful in
Yeah,
the 80s.
in
So
the
that
80s
didn't help at all.
So you had people having good experiences with Japanese cars and Japanese products in general in the 70s. And then the 80s came and they had all these emission clampdowns, which the Japanese had no problems complying with. But the American manufacturers, to comply with them, they had to neuter everything to where I think the fastest production car in the 80s that wasn't like an exotic was like, it was the Ford Mustang, but it was the 4-cylinder turbo. I forget what it was called back then. They called it the SVO.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
It was a 2.3 turbo Mustang, and it was faster than like the V8 Camaro because the IROC Z78 or Z28, I'm sorry, Camaro back then was like 200 horsepower. Like it was a joke.
Well, in the regular, it was at the trailing end, the Mustang 2 or whatever had that junk motor in it. That thing was terrible. Nobody even likes those cars anymore.
And the 80s went through the whole turbo phase.
They were all that way.
They were
Well,
all-
yeah.
like all the Turbo K cars from Dodge and stuff, and they were horribly unreliable.
Oh, hey,
Yep.
there's an 80s turbo car parked in your driveway right now.
Well, it's not
Oh, yeah.
American. It's not an American vehicle. though.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm talking about the turbo phase of the Americans.
Yeah, the Americans didn't get it right because I don't think that they understood the concept of how you have to engineer the engine completely different. You can't just go from like a vacuum system to pressurized intake.
Well, they knew that
They knew
because
that.
they built the Grand National, and the Grand National was like the
And
great exception to that entire.
Americans
problem.
kind of invented the turbo from aerospace, like way back when airplanes had turbos.
Yep.
Because up in the atmosphere, you don't have as much
Yes.
air, so they had to force air in. So you got like GE and Borg Warner and all these companies that built turbos back then. But in the 80s in cars, it was hard to take it from an airplane, which is a physically larger item, and then shrink it down to fit in a car because they just couldn't figure out the means to do that successfully. And the Grand National, you speak of that, you know who built the Grand National motor?
Barbara Bush.
They hired McLaren to do it.
Yeah. That's
So
right. it was
they had to
McLaren.
bring in McLaren to build the motor for them because they couldn't figure out how to do it right. They had the Pontiac Trans Am turbo before that, and it was a pile of junk, man.
Yep.
Like it was just terrible. It was a 350, but it wasn't the Chevrolet 350. It was a Pontiac 350, and then it had the turbocharger on there. And I think the turbocharger only ran off one bank. It was an awful design. So yeah, but what I'm getting at here is through the 70s, people started buying and trusting these Japanese products. In the 80s, the American products were just bad. So the Japanese got even more popular. In the 90s, the Americans, to try to make up ground, were looking at selling in volume rather than quality. They were looking for quantity over quality. And they were just pumping out billions of cars. And do you remember things like the 1993 Chevy Lumina? Like,
Oh yeah.
it was just
The best
horrible.
car ever.
60-degree V6s, like the 3100, the 3300, the 3400. Like, they're just terrible
I want the
V6s.
54-degree V6 in my Cadillac Catera.
Oh, the Catera. The German-built Cadillac. Just horrible.
But anyway,
Horrible cars. And Japan just kept growing in popularity. I think that's going to be China.
well, I think that it could be China, depending on what happens in the socioeconomic climate that we're seeing today.
Don't forget, tariffs fought the Japanese back in the 80s. What Reagan did he put a tariff on any motorcycle above 750 cc's.
But now, do we think that I think that the Japanese product back then, it was quality that was much better than what we could get here. But do we think that China has that now compared to what we can get elsewhere?
I don't think the quality is at question because modern products are all quality. Like, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. But what you're getting from China is price.
But if the price is not there,
that's the question: is if tariffs fight off price, or if the Chinese just I don't think they can, from a brand standpoint. I don't think they can introduce like premium pricing, not yet, because they don't have the customer base. The faith in their product isn't there. They need to keep pumping out cheap bikes. They don't need to necessarily concentrate on beginner small capacity bikes, but they just need to pump out a bike that is far less expensive than its competition.
And that's going to be significantly harder.
Yep. And so that's the hurdle they have to get over in order to compete in this market. Because like basically there's been talks of CF Moto having a V4 super bike, and I mean there's all kinds of rumors flying around about that. They built that 675 sport bike, which is cool. It's impressive, but imagine if that thing is like 11 grand. Well, you just go buy the Triumph. Because you're like, well, would I buy that, or I could just pay $1,000 extra and get a real Triumph? But luckily, that bike's priced at like $7,000, so it's attractive. It's like, it's at a price point where it's even better than the Trident 660 or the new Daytona 660. And you can replace these bikes with whatever Japanese brand you want. But I feel like instead of paying $9 grand, $10 grand, $11 grand for a Japanese product, you might be tempted especially as a new rider, to pay $6 grand, $7 grand for a CF Moto.
Well, yeah, like if I can get a good deal, then I would consider it. But I'm not going out of my way to say, oh yeah, I want a Chinese bike.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. Is like, I don't think anyone's doing that.
Yeah.
I think people are just looking to pay a reasonable price for a quality product, and I feel like China is delivering on that end, at least in that price point, in that middle capacity range. I feel like the Chinese bikes are delivering.
But now, the other thing you have to consider, and that I would consider, is new Chinese bike versus used not Chinese bike.
So the way they're combating that is warranty. All the Chinese products are coming out with like really stellar warranties, 3-year, some of them are 4-year. Like, it's impressive. So that would be their deterrent to keep you from buying a used bike. Because think about that. You're a new rider. You don't know much about mechanics. You've never worked on hardly anything. You're buying your first motorcycle. You just want to have the experience of riding. You don't necessarily know that there's this whole side of working on the things. And you're dealing with a used product that God only knows, or you can get this brand new one that has a warranty for the same price. So I think when you look at it from that kind of consumer side of things, and I think Gen Z, millennial generation, and even the generation following Gen Z, they're calling it Gen A.
We're millennials, you know.
Yeah. I'm like the oldest millennial.
Crusty.
We are generations of educated consumers. We've always had the internet to like look up all the specs and all that kind of stuff, and I'll do all the research. And we are less like Gen X and the boomers were very influenced by lifestyle brands, extremely influenced by lifestyle brands. Anymore, the only people influenced by lifestyle brands, I believe, are rich. So, like, Ducati can sell a guy a Panigale with Lamborghini written on the side that has no extra real-world value. It just says Lamborghini on the side. Hell, Ducati has one that says Supreme on the side, which is like a clothing brand.
We saw one of those today.
Yeah,
it's a clothing brand, and they charge extra for it. And I'm like, to us, we would never buy that because we're like, well, no, that's not practical. It doesn't give me anything extra value-wise.
Well,
it just says some brand on the side of it.
If we became successful influencers, we would need that.
Yeah, I know. We need endorsements and stuff like that. So
I don't know. I think there's a lot of people that, the whole TikTok thing and all that stuff, TikTok brain and all that. The people that are super into that and they have these followers that they watch and they like all this stuff that they buy. I think they would be influenced to buy a certain product that may not be what they actually want or need.
Well, lifestyle brands can, like Supreme. Supreme is kind of a clothing brand, but it's more just a brand. They can slap their logo on anything and charge money for it. The problem is, who's actually buying it at those prices? Only rich people.
Well, because they can afford it, yeah.
Us normal folks, we're like, well, I'm not going to buy a shirt for $200 just because it says Supreme on it. I'll run down to the store and get one for $20.
But you're going to pay more to buy the certain color. If you want your bike in a certain color and it costs more, you'll pay it, right?
At a certain point, you will. If it's like you're buying a $12,000 motorcycle and the premium paint job is $200 extra, it's $500 extra, heck, maybe even $1,000 extra. You might say, you know what? I really do like that red one or whatever the color is instead of the green one or whatever.
Well, whoever bought my one car when it was new paid an extra $4,000 for that frosty gray paint job.
That's a Mercedes.
And like, I would never have paid for that.
Do you know what Ferrari charges for their extras? Like, there's certain paint colors at Ferrari that cost like $50,000.
Well, you can say, okay, I want this color, and they'll do it for you for like $50,000, any color you want.
But and that's the thing. That's a lifestyle brand, and only the rich can do that kind of stuff
because they can afford it. But if it was a lifestyle brand that was cheap, which I'm sure there are, I just don't really know what the specific mention. If it was cheap enough that people could afford it, I think they would.
Think about the Stanley Cups.
Great value brand.
Exactly.
Like, you can get the same cup
you
without Stanley on it for like $5. Then you go buy a Stanley cup, and I don't even know what I don't ever shop for them.
Private selection.
And
I have no idea what they cost, but they're more than $5.
Yeah, and how many white girls have Stanley cups?
Yep. But it's in an affordable price bracket.
But it's a lifestyle brand.
You could, like Stanley could come out with a special edition one that's all diamond encrusted and charge $10,000 for it.
And they will sell every one of them.
And they'll sell every one of them because there's enough rich people to buy them.
But now we can get Yetis.
Who?
Yeti.
I don't know what that is.
Think about it. Yeti. We can get our Yeti cups because everybody bought Stanleys.
Yeah.
No,
I got Yeti. I got a Yeti Mountain Dew can cooler.
Are they...
That's a mason jar.
That's all it's ever been used for. Not this, at home.
Have they gone down in price, the Yetis?
No, I don't think so.
Really? Because they were way overpriced too.
No, one
they're
time I was
still
sitting
way
on the
overpriced.
airplane and this like mother and daughter were sitting next to me. And it was around Black Friday time. And they had like Yeti backpacks, Yeti like bags. They've expanded past the like cups and drinkware. But for this whole flight, they were both going back and forth looking at things on the Yeti website. I'm like, wow, I didn't know people were obsessed with it that much.
And well, maybe my experience is a little too
Yeti
anecdotal.
lifestyle wear.
But if I try to like step back and focus on the macro too, just looking across the motorcycle market, I feel like those folks who are shopping for motorcycles are more pragmatic and more practical than being tempted by branding. I really do. I find that most folks out there, and what sells in volumes in the motorcycle world isn't this branding crap. It's practical vehicles that come in at a reasonable price point, and that's what sells in volume and mass. And I think that's where the Chinese are really trying to hammer it hard. They're not going for branding. Ducati can go for branding, but like not even Honda can get away with that. So I think the Chinese are going to fare well over the next decade. The only thing I would say though is I think they do need like some marketing folks to coach them through naming things because their names are ridiculous. Not only is the brand name, CF Moto is not bad, but it's not great. But like QJ Motors, it's not Moto, it's motors, like cars, but they sell motorcycles.
But do they spell motors with an E in it?
No, they do not.
Well, how many popular like name brands? How many of them are more than one word?
Yeah, I know. Like it's just, to me, it's silly. And usually, like the big brands are someone's last name. If you think about it, Chevrolet, Ford, Dodge, and then you go into Honda,
Xpeng
Toyota,
Automotive.
It's like. But then you get into the Chinese, and you're like, what are you guys even thinking on that?
Qingdao.
And think about their model names. Their model names are always like a alphanumeric mess.
This is the Hongqi Q5.
Yeah, and you're like, what? What? I don't even want
I
to
think
try
that's an
to say
actual
that.
car, by the way.
Is it really?
I think so.
Well, I think a lot of the other brands have a little bit of a naming crisis as well. I mean, BMW's not got the greatest track record for naming.
Well, to give BMW credit, at least they've stuck with it.
They've changed it, though.
Yeah,
they
well,
have
everything's an M now.
Well, everything has M.
Well, and then it's not, unless it's
But
not.
then it was
Oh,
like,
and it's like M used to be special. It used to be like this one special vehicle, and now everything's got M.
well, it's like I have AMG floor mats.
Yeah, like why?
Why?
Your car's not an AMG.
No.
So I think it's
But it
stupid.
has the AMG line,
But
whatever that means.
It's got the up spec package.
But my thing about BMW and like the way they did it, it was like, okay, you had like 135.
yeah,
and then
you had these series, and then the motor size.
But then they're like, well, like let's make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
yeah, they got confusing.
And then it's like, well, but let's make a 3 series that's a hatchback. Well, shouldn't that be a 4? And then they like completely mutilated the whole thing.
And
Mercedes did the same thing.
Mercedes and BMW, German cars in general, they're the ones who come up with the alphanumeric naming system. And the Japanese, when they all invented their luxury lines, like Toyota had Lexus, Honda had Acura, Nissan came up with Infiniti, to try to emulate luxury, they all adopted alphanumeric names for their cars because they thought that would associate them with luxury. I liked when Acura first came out, all their cars had like proper names, and I don't understand what's wrong with that. Like they had the Integra, the Vigor, the Legend. I thought that was great. Like they were cool names for cars, and they rolled off the tongue well, and you knew exactly what they were talking about. Now it's like whatever they have, TLX 3.2 or what all these weird
No,
things.
they don't have that anymore. It's just TLX.
No, they just have TLX, and then they had like
The ILX that they decided to take back and call the Integra.
yeah, they did that. They finally came back out with the name Integra. But I'm like, the name Vigor is still a good name. The name Legend is still a good name, and I think if they came out with another Legend, I think that would be a cool car.
Well, that's what. So at least when I was there, everything was like the RLX, RDX, MDX, all that bullshit, and then they brought back Integra. So it's like, okay, Integra is the only one in the line with a real name. And at least when I was there was no talk about bringing back any other real names.
I saw a Honda Passport going down the road the other day, and I didn't realize they brought back that name.
Yeah, they brought back the Passport
And I was like, that's cool.
in
man.
like 2018 maybe. They just took the Pilot and then took out the rear seat and made it a little bit
yeah,
shorter.
they shrunk it down a little bit and called it a Passport.
But now I think with the next generation, the
What?
Pilot came out in 22. Now the new Passport I think is not necessarily the same
have you ever
platform.
seen an original Honda Odyssey or an original Honda Pilot
Absolutely.
from the 80s?
Well, I've seen the Odyssey. I feel like the first Odyssey that we got in America was in like the early 90s.
No, it was in the 80s, 100%. It was two-stroke. It's pull start.
Two-stroke.
I'm
Was,
not
it
joking.
was it a lawnmower?
No, it was like a go-kart. It was the first. It was considered widely considered the first side-by-side.
Oh, you're talking about the Pilot off-road.
Yeah,
Delight. I thought you
the
were talking
Pilot and the
about-
Odyssey. They had a single-seater and a
Yeah.
two-seater. They were
Yeah,
like the
I'm familiar
first
with
side-by-sides UTVs. And Honda invented them back in the 80s, and they were called Pilot and Odyssey. And then in the 90s, they started calling cars that. Oh, that was
Classic.
pretty cool.
Yeah, those
Legendary.
Are neat. Those are a little bit of a collector piece now.
They are. They're
You'll
worth a lot of
pay.
money now.
You'll pay a lot of money. Like the best one, the one that's unobtainium, is the 400 Pilot that came out like late 80s, early 90s. I think it might have been even. They didn't make very many of them before they ceased production, but that was the one that had like the biggest motor in it, all the best stuff on it. You know,
They had the coolest steering wheels, man.
oh, it was awesome. It was a yoke.
Yeah,
because it was like
freaking dope.
yeah, it was
so
sweet.
cool.
That one.
Except a lot of people were like having their arms pinched off.
Yeah.
Because like your arms would flail out of the cage, and then the cage would crush your arm. So that's why they quit making them.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, they weren't great.
Just
for
like
that.
the three-wheelers in the 80s.
Yeah, same reason. But those, you'll pay one of those Pilots, you'll pay like 15 grand for one.
Oh, easy.
So what do we think about China as a country of origin?
Well, I've said my piece. I think that they're going to do well going into the future. I think even through tariffs, like we might experience a few years where tariffs kind of screw with the market a little bit.
As long as they can compete, I think that they will stay.
I think so.
And I don't have any opposition to it. I mean, if there's something that I want and that's where it happens to come from,
well,
why not?
If the plan that they claim, if what they claim they're doing with the tariffs works the way that they think it's going to work, and if it's all rainbows and sunshines on the end of this period,
well,
that actually will be better for us, because that would be a free trade kind of environment.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I think they want to get to.
And that's also in the short term, like that's just in the interim. Like when we get past this, we're a decade out, all that tariff talk, like that's going to be long gone, and we're just going to be on to, and I also think like there's going to be like an influx of Chinese products and we're talking about motorcycling space. So you're going to see a bunch of Chinese brands, and like what Macho Man says, the cream will rise to the top.
Mm-hmm.
So
Macho Man Randy Savage?
That's correct. So the cream will rise to the top. We'll see which one actually comes out as like a viable brand and moves on into the future. I think CF Moto's already kind of establishing themselves as dominant as a Chinese manufacturer.
I could see them creating at least this is kind of how I would hope that they would do it. They would create another brand and give it a different name, a whole different thing, an Acura Honda kind of thing. And that be like
CF Moto Premium.
Yeah, it'd be like their premium, the up spec, the bigger motors, the super fancy bike would be that, and then the CF Motos can still maintain to be the bike that they are now, a cheaper but effective,
like Husqvarna KTM gas.
So, and we're speaking mostly about the American market here, but we are so small compared to other markets around the world in the motorcycling space. To give you guys some perspective on this, I just went through all these statistics, like sales statistics. In the United States in 2024, the entirety of the motorcycle market in the U.S. bought 550,000 motorcycles in 2024. So we have about 350 million Americans, and we only bought 550,000 motorcycles. In the month of March.
So that's what? That's
in 2025.
What is that? A point?
It's very few.
Like 0.6%?
Yeah, it's very few. In the month of March in 2025, just that single month in 2025, the Indian company TVR, which you probably never heard of.
Is it the same one as the Russian
car
company?
No.
That was a British car company.
It was British, and then the Russians bought it.
Yeah.
It's called TVR, and they just bought Norton motorcycles, actually. They also make the BMW G310. All the G310. It's that company. I might be saying it might be a different acronym. For some reason, I'm thinking it's TVR. Anyways, in just the month of March of 2025, they sold 500,000 motorcycles. Just a single month.
It's a lot of motor pickles.
That's just one company in India that sold that many. Royal Enfield last year in 2024, worldwide sales was 1 million motorcycles. So just Royal Enfield, which is a small Indian company, sold more motorcycles twice that of what the American motorcycle market purchases in 1 year. And they're not even the biggest motorcycle companies. Hero Motorcycles is the biggest motorcycle company, and they are gargantuan.
We're just not a large consumer of motorcycles.
We're not. So when we think like, if CF Moto would come here with all these cool bikes, let's face reality here. We don't matter when it comes to motorcycles. Who matters in motorcycling is East Asia, India specifically.
Yeah, and
they're the
you
largest
say that,
motorcycle
though,
market.
But their new sport bike, the one that just got released recently.
You talking about CF Motos?
Yeah, it's like a 660 or something, or
It's 675.
675. Yeah. I would argue that bike wouldn't really sell the greatest in the East Asian market.
Well, don't
I feel
forget,
like that bike is not necessarily built just for that huge. Like I feel like that's for everybody else.
It is for everybody, but don't forget that India has been an emerging market for like a couple decades, and the Indian middle class is the fastest growing middle class on earth. So these people are getting money, and they've gone from 50cc to 125cc to 250cc, and now they're looking at 500s and 700s. These people are starting to buy these middleweight bikes, and once that happens, every motorcycle manufacturer is just going to be like, heck yeah, ship the bikes to India. So I think it's starting to happen.
Heck yeah.
That's right.
BMW S600RR, middleweight.
That's what you want. So,
Heck yeah.
to finish out this episode, I don't know why I wanted to shout out to Moto Jitsu. Anyways, you guys know who Moto Jitsu is?
Because he teaches people how to ride motorcycles.
So Moto Jitsu, Greg Widmer is his name. He's got a YouTube channel and of course all the other social media platforms. He does both shorts and long form videos
And bike reviews.
And his bike reviews, where he teaches folks how to ride. If you're in the San Diego area, you can literally meet him at like a ride location. He usually goes out to like their canyon roads. You can meet up with him and he will coach you for free. Like it's completely for free. He's got millions of followers. He sells books. He does other coaching as well, like real professional coaching. He's worked with Lee Parks for years. He's been part of California's like basic rider school, and he's worked with California Superbike School. He's also worked with Yamaha Champ School. He's written articles for Revzilla, for the Common Tread area. So he's a pretty big contributor. Some folks like can say his personality is a little off-putting, but overall, I do think he does good for the motorcycle market, or for the motorcycle,
Yeah, he has good material.
I think
I've watched a lot of it.
I think he's decent, and he's mostly wants to concentrate on like beginner stuff and doing parking lot maneuvers and everything. But overall, he's pushing riding safer, which I can totally get behind. And I've had the opportunity to interact with him, and he's always been really nice to interact with. Believe it or not, he's been really nice to me. He's been a really cool guy to me. So I would like to reach out to him and see, like, I mean, obviously he's way bigger on YouTube and on the social medias than we are, but I feel like I respect what he does, and I'd like to get to know the guy on more of a personal level. I bought his book to kind of just read through and get a feel for everything he's talking about, even though I've watched him for years. So I just wanted to give a shout out there to Moto Jitsu, and hopefully I can convince him to do some like remote interview stuff with us.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I concur.
Cool. Well, I think that's it for this episode.
Keep the shiny side up.
Yeah, I guess. God, you're wrong.